Hi, I'm Attorney Trixie Cruz-Angeles.
And I am Attorney Edwin Lacierda. And this is
The Spokes. From the palace halls, then to our group chats now,
We will be giving you conversations that will make you think and assess.
so that you could come up with your own personal opinion.
What we want to present are two sides of each political or governance concern.
For our first unfiltered zone topic, severe tropical storm Tañon hitting the Visayas region today.
Bagyo na naman.
This is the part that I dread during the year.
You know, I don't know how many storms na. Would you know?
No, T na eh. So, di ba,
Ay, ay.
it's alphabetical, so I assume pang ilan na yan.
So it will affect Samar, Siargao.
About the 20th na ngayon.
Okay, Dinagat Islands. These are all close to Visayas. Talagang,
Yes. Ang sabi nga nila, yung path ng storm is similar to that of Yolanda. It's going to hit eastern Samar, same
So talagang
as
south
Yolanda.
siya talagang going
Yeah.
through Visayas,
Yeah.
no? It's really I hope it was, sa bagay, it's not as, the intensity is not as strong as Yolanda.
Yeah, and the early warning is good so that the local governments and the national agencies can prepare. So this is something that that we should be prepared for every year. Something that we don't always do it well, but at least may heads up na tayo.
So may lindol na, may bagyo pa, di ba? Parang tuloy-tuloy, no? Talagang pinapaalala sa atin itong flood control na to. Ulan na naman, so...
Totoo. So, and people will be looking now in the middle of all these flood control issues. Yan, titingnan talaga natin. But we have an eye also on the local government officials. Kamusta
Yeah.
ang performance nila on this one?
So, there's always a question of, ano ba ang daming terms natin sa bagyo, no? May tropical depression, may storm, tapos may typhoon. So, would you know how they are distinguished?
I understand na ang tropical storm, it's based on wind speed. So, tropical storm, 87 to 117 kilometers per hour. If it sounds random, it's because it used to be non-metric. So, kilometers na siya. So, it looks random, pero actually, may conversion siya. A super typhoon is 185 kilometers per hour.
That's huge, huh? Lakas yan. So, we had Yolanda, at that time was the strongest typhoon. I remember
Category
that.
5.
We were monitoring it, and we told the president, sir, we need to do a press conference.
Yes.
Because that became a staple for us, because every time there's a huge storm, we would tell the president, sir, I think you have to inform the public. The first time it happened, nakakatawa yan. Kasi, so I texted the President Aquino, sir, this is before Yolanda. There's a huge storm, the diameter is about 800 kilometers. Sabi ko, you need to inform the public. That was on a Sunday. Sabi niya, let's meet first on Monday. So nagpatawag ng meeting and called the Pag-asa. And true enough, it was really huge. And he decided to do a press conference. And afterwards, every time, nangyari yan. So Yolanda was also one of them. But the problem with Yolanda, I remember, was hindi na maintindihan ng tao ano ang storm surge sa Tagalog.
At ginamit yung term na storm surge
Use
without
storm
an explanation.
surge.
Oo.
Yes, because it turns out pala sa Tagalog, we eventually found ang Tagalog word, daluyong. But it was one of those things that
But
people
wait,
did not understand.
What about a Visayan word?
I have no idea.
Diba? That would have
Oo
been
nga.
necessary kasi yun yung primary hit eh.
Yun na nga eh. So talagang people didn't, and we were warning people, pero since they did not understand.
Yeah. And I understand, prepared naman, well, at least from what I remember President Aquino held a press conference, tapos sinabi niya, pre-positioned yung mga barko in the Bicol region, ready to cross into the Visayas. But there were still major problems because everything was devastated in Tacloban.
It was really the biggest storm to date. In fact, you say the biggest storm in the whole world at that time. And what happened was talagang nasalanta lahat, and the problem there was the prepositioned goods were not enough. So that's why, and even the prepositioned goods, binaha I remember in Tacloban, binaha yung mga natamaan ng baha,
it was
yung
that bad. Yeah.
prepositioned goods. So the whole idea was, the first problem that we had was logistics.
Okay.
How do we bring the goods all the way to the Visayas? The C-150 can only carry so much. Each travel only carry so much. The boats are also have a problem. So you really need to do logistics. That's the one thing that one of the lessons learned, where we are able to make sure that the logistics supply should be tuloy-tuloy.
And it was learned because the Duterte administration did very well for disaster relief and rescue. So siguro lessons learned talaga yon from Yolanda.
The lessons learned in Yolanda was Secretary Mar Rojas instituted, number one, Oplan Listo. There
What
was
is
previously,
Oplan Listo?
Oplan Listo was, they had a checklist. Ito yung mga checklist. So you have to check all these lists. Kung kailan to, then you have to do some actions. And I remember Mar would always call up the local government executives. No? He would tell them, make sure that nakalikas na yung mga taong sa ano. I'll tell you the example, the one anecdote in Yolanda. So we were telling people evacuate, especially those in the beachfront.
Yes.
You know, the mayor of Tacloban refused to leave. The very mayor of Yolanda refused to leave and stayed on the beach house. And so after the aftermath of the storm, Mar was going through Tacloban, and he saw the couple, the mayor and his wife, and a dog walking, stranded. So they had to pick them up. So, you know, pag sinabing ilikas ang beachfront, umalis kayo because it was really so devastating that the entire city was devastated.
There was also a lesson learned there. I did a story on the rescue and relief efforts of Yolanda, and I talked to the normal, the NDRRMC later on. It was a centralized approach, Yolanda. Right. So unfortunately, because of the devastation, the center was a disaster area.
Right.
So the approach should have been from the outside. So the ships that were prepositioned outside of in the Bicol area could have approached all from the different ports. But there was an insistence on sticking to a centralized plan. Na intindihan ko naman probably because of the logistics. But that cost a lot of lives. It caused major delays. So that was a major, lesson learned.
But I think also, but in spite of all the lessons learned, the international community praised our relief efforts. It was better than Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. And, you know, considering us, we were an archipelago, and Hurricane Katrina was only focused on Louisiana. So talagang it was...
third world country.
Plus we are a third world country, we're an archipelago, so we did very well. In fact, the international, even UN, OCHA praised us. Let's move on to the next unfiltered zone topic.
Okay.
President Marcos announced plans to revive Project NOAA.
Oh, okay.
You know, it was a very important tool that we have. I remember it was Mahar Lagmay.
Yes,
who
he was the project
initiated. In fact, I called up a USEC when I learned why did President Duterte remove Project NOAA?
There were two. Number one was there was really no major funding for it anymore. Daming issues sa budget at the time, number one. And number two...
Hindi ni-realign ang budget to preserve NOAA?
Realignment would have come at the end of the year, di ba?
No. So, when they were planning the budget, the budget was there, right? And then they took it out.
The second factor is important. According to Director Lagmay himself, there's so much infighting in the DOST. Even during the Aquino administration, there were some people who wanted to take down the project.
Because?
So, hindi ako sure. There were some that say that there were institutional reforms that could have been made so that publicly available yung mga projects and all the information. But if this was publicly available, mawawala ng flood control projects. That's supposedly one of the reasons. But there are also others. The third major reason was because most of the deliverables were already given, the initial deliverables na award-winning pa nga yung ibang project, yung ibang dineliver noon. So sabi ni President Duterte, since most of them are here, itutuloy pero hindi na niya kakayanin under the GAA. So it was transferred to UP.
But that was only one. Sana binalik the next year, ayaw na rin.
Because of it was DOST kasi who gives the recommendation. Eh.
So
so within the DOST, meron din.
So you mean DOST recommended the abolition of NOAA?
They were the ones who said na or that it okay lang institutionalization but to transfer it to an academic institution. So UP was the one that accepted it.
So at least when they revived it, they're expected to integrate modern data tools,
Yes,
AI-based flood modeling, and satellite
Plus,
imaging.
the deliverables are being used
Right.
to this day. It's just been transferred to Pag-asa, yung iba. The others are still with UP.
This is something anecdotal.
yeah.
So when we left government, so I was giving talks to siyempre small groups. The young kid, mga bata pa, mga after graduate na sila, nagtatrabaho na, sasabihin nila, "Sir, kilala ka namin." Not a spokesperson, but you know what? But kayo ni Attorney Abby Valde, taga-announce na walang pasok. So kilala kami na wala kami. Ay, sila
What a nice thing to be associated with.
That's the best compliment that we had. No? Parang
Yeah.
talagang sinasabi na they're monitoring Twitter and they will say, ano sinabi ni Valde, ano sinabi ni Lacierda, kung walang pasok, yay!
I never did that.
Yeah, because it was part of our job.
Yeah, but imagine a generation.
Yeah, that's why they don't
that
know me as
knows you
spokesperson, they know me as taga-announce na walang pasok.
Also the parents, Okay. It's clear the government is stepping up its disaster preparedness efforts.
However, environmental threats don't come from storms or earthquakes. We'll talk about the bias environment disaster when the spokesitter after this short break. Vice City in Negros Oriental is now declaring a state of calamity due to a wastewater spill.
And to help us understand the situation, we have DENR Environmental Management Bureau Assistant Director Maria Naz-Hipe.
Welcome to the Spokespo Engineer Chat. So, could you tell us what's the status right now of the Vice water spill?
Before that, I'd just like to greet, of course, Attorney Trixie Cruz-Angeles and Attorney Edwin Lacierda and all the listeners and viewers of the Spokes of Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Welcome po.
Welcome to the program.
Again po yung tanong.
Could you describe to us what's the current status of the Vice water spill?
Okay. So, ang current status ay about 90% of the damage doon sa pond where the wastewater leaked out has been rehabilitated. About 90%.
Wait ma'am, ano po ang nangyari dito?
Okay. So, ikwento ko po muna, no? On October 26, about 255,000 cubic meters of molasses wastewater was spilled or discharged from the wastewater lagoon of Universal Robina Corporation.
Ma'am, what is the difference between molasses and molasses wastewater?
Opo. Ang molasses po for the plant is a raw material which they distill or ferment to produce ethanol, yes. And from the distillation and fermentation process, meron po tayong na-generate na wastewater. So ito po yung napunta doon sa mga lagoons nila and of course a volume of which was discharged to the Bais Bay.
So yung ponds na yon, they're supposed to clean up the wastewater, di ba?
Yes.
Ito yung holding ponds and finifilter niya before it is discharged into the sea.
Yes.
So ano po yung nangyari sa wastewater na to?
Ang nangyari po kasi dahil nga nasira yung dike or like the embankment of the lagoon, about 15 meters long part of the dike. That is why yung wastewater ay na-discharge po doon sa Bais Bay.
So ano ang effect ng pagpasok ng wastewater na ito sa dagat?
Well, definitely po, meron itong effect sa ating coastal and marine waters since concentrated din po yung wastewater na na-discharge. So, initially, nakita natin yung discoloration ng waters.
Anong kulay po?
Reddish, a
Dugo.
bit maroon.
It looks bloody.
Yes.
Yeah, parang apocalypse.
Parang
Ganun.
biblical
kaya-
Kristo.
Oo.
Panahon ni Moses.
Kaya naalarma din po yung mga communities dahil kulay pula and of course nagkaroon pa ng fish kill. So immediately po ang DNR din ay nag-issue sa ating field office nag-issue na po ng
CBO.
cease and desist order.
When you say fish kill engineer siya, namatay yung mga isda dahil bumaba ang oxygen?
Tama po yun dahil po yung ating wastewater ay may organic po in nature. So oxygen in the waters was depleted for the biodegradation of this wastewater.
How extensive was the fish kill?
About 12 tons.
12
yes,
tons?
12 tons.
That's 12,000 kilograms.
Yes, yes.
Ang dami
attorney.
nun.
Marami po yun. Kaya
Ito po yung Tañon Strait, right?
Vice Bay po discharges to the Tañon Strait
Yes.
Protected Seascape. Tama po.
And the protected seascape is a breeding ground ng mga shellfish, mollusks, ganyan.
Yes.
Importante din siya for our large marine mammals. So, paano sila maapektuhan ngayon? And ganong katagal ang possibility na may ganito sa tubig?
In terms of yung effect, of course, meron pong effect sa ating marine resources and sa fish or production din. The assessment will be done by our field office.
Wala pang assessment po.
Uumpisan pa lang po yung assessment in coordination with Silliman University
Yes.
since they have the technical expertise. And in terms of yung tagal bago po mawala yung ating wastewater doon, hopefully through dilution with the waters, tidal action, mapapabilis naman. Kasi ito pong wastewater na ito ay nahahalo rin po doon sa ating seawater.
So hindi ito tulad ng oil spill na
Ay.
kino-contain?
Ay, hindi po. These are two different
Right.
types of, what you call this, in terms of yung characteristic po. Ang oil po kasi lumulutang po yan
Correct.
sa tubig because it is lighter than water. Unlike itong molasses, wastewater, ang tendency po niya ay mag-mix na po.
water.
Sa water. Yes.
So you just allow it to flow?
Mahirap pong i-collect ito. But
Correct.
there may be attempts, use mga pads or even to maybe try to pump up. But eventually po magmi-mix din po siya sa seawater and through time, madidisperse na rin po siya.
So yung fish kill po, anong ginagawa ito sa mga isdang namatay? They just gather it?
Kailangan pong i-collect at ilibing. This should not be consumed.
Sold or-
Opo,
yeah,
sold or
Ano ang
consumed.
composition ng wastewater na ito?
So, basically, of course, mayroon din siyang nitrates, phosphates, ammonia, and yung organic contents niya, which yun po yung
Lason
nagbabay.
talaga. Nakakalason talaga siya.
How long do you expect
Ammonia.
this thing to persist in the waters? It's already the 5th day, I think.
It's the 5th day. We cannot give yet an estimate as to how long it will persist. Ito po'y kasama po doon sa pinag-aaralan natin.
In the meantime po, ano ang ginagawa ng mga mangingisda natin ngayon doon?
Accordingly, ang ating pong BIFAR in the area ay nag-issue naman po ng parang notice na hindi po pwede pang lumayag, and even for the communities, hindi rin pwedeng pumunta sa tubig while the wastewater is still visible in the area.
But who
according
monitors
din po-
who monitors that no fishermen will be able to go through those waters?
Ay, yung community po, yung
Sila
barangay
na
po.
mismo?
Opo. Kasi pati yung ating LGUs po are actively involved din doon sa ating
Administratively, sino po ang may primary jurisdiction pag ganito ang nangyari? DENR ba o yung LGU?
Iba't iba po ang government agencies concerned when it comes to the environmental
Aspect.
effects and of course regulations. Ang DNR po And under the DNR, we have the Environmental Management Bureau when we talk of water pollution or violation of their permit conditions. Iba naman po yung when it comes to the protected area, we have our Biodiversity Management Bureau, and on the field, our Protected Area Management Board. So may kanya-kanya po siyang jurisdiction and responsibilities when it comes to this incident. Ang LGU naman po, of course, ang marine waters ay kanila din pong jurisdiction. And the Coast Guard is also actively involved.
I understand itong nag-cause ng spill is Universal Robina.
Yes.
How are they cooperating this whole thing?
Definitely, they have to because they caused this incident.
Correct. So what are they doing now?
Ngayon po, they are undertaking yung rehabilitation noong nasirang dike, and they have stopped their operations based on the cease and desist order issued by the EMB, pati po yung ating dalawang LGUs, ang Bais and Manhuyot, issued also po. Opo,
So two towns ang severely
Yes,
affected.
Ay, malaki pala yun. Two towns affected.
Two LGUs have
Manhuyot,
issued stoppage order to URC, so they cannot operate, and of course they have to focus on the rehabilitation and of course yung affected communities.
And if you're now in the current process of investigating,
Yes,
what
Attorney.
normally are the sanctions, if any, that that DNR will impose?
Sa pagdating po sa URC, under the Clean Water Act, so may violations of the water quality standards or effluent standards, and this shall be elevated to the Pollution Adjudication Board. So meron pong penalties. I think it's already about 500,000 a day.
Yes.
While the violation,
million.
yes. So the Pollution Adjudication Board, the PAB, sila po yung magde-determine ng penalties po in terms of violation of the Clean Water Act. Sa field office natin, meron din pong liability violations of our Environmental Impact Statement System.
Wala silang ECC?
Meron po silang ECC, but based on the latest monitoring, may violation din po ng conditions. So, iba rin po yung penalties po under that law which the regional office shall determine.
I just want to ask about the ECC kasi nag-practice ako dyan sa EMB, usually for the built environment kasi.
Okay.
But merong mga instances na sinasabihan kami, andyan na yan eh. So, may mga cases.
What is andyan na yan?
It's the standard excuse. Yung, wala silang ECC or hindi sila nag-comply with certain requirements dun sa ECC, taking into consideration built environment, normally heritage yan.
Okay.
Tapos sasabihin nila sa amin, nagiba na eh. It's happened before, not under this administration, not even under the previous one. Kasi nagko-practice ako under President GMA.
Okay.
So during that time, and even before that, during that time, yun yung time na humihiga kami sa harap ng bulldozer kasi gigibain nila yung Mehan Gardens.
Okay.
Ayun. So meron
Okay,
ganon.
yes,
May mga,
yes.
so we had cases in the protection of the built environment. But so I want to know, ano yung estado ngayon ng ECC? Pag may violations, pwede nang patigil yung buong project na in violation of an ECC?
In this case po, may na-issue na nga po na cease and desist order. So they cannot operate. They have to mitigate what they caused. The ECC may be suspended, so it will be determined also by the regional office who issued the ECC.
If my information is correct, one of the defenses, if any, mentioned by URC, kasi naglindol daw yata. Kaya bumagsak yung DK yata. Parang ganun yung...
Yun po ang kanilang reason. This may be contributory, but if the pond was, of course, designed properly, dapat ho naka-withstand po siya ng mga ganyang possible na mangyayari.
Pero
Earthquake
paano
or-
po yun, ma'am? 1984 pa po yung yung URC, di ba?
The plant may have existed at that time, pero yung paggamit po ng lagoon ay fairly recently po.
But if that's the case, do you do a regular supervision of the strength of the dikes, or because it's an ECC is issued only once?
Yes
Correct?
po. Yes.
Is there a periodic review of their ECC given the fact that it's been in existence for more than 20 years? 10 years. Yeah, more than matagal na. 84 pa.
ECC was issued in 2016 noong meron pa yung NIR at the time. And the regional office monitors the company.
Why was the ECC only issued in 2016? Was that that's not a fairly new regulation ng ECC? Matagal na,
Hindi
di ba?
po.
Oo.
1980.
So, yan din po ang titignan natin. Now, if...
Bago ba yung lagoon?
hindi naman po. Hindi pa. Hindi naman siya bago. They have, it has been used by the by URC.
So yung tama, yung tanong, bakit ngayon lang nagkaroon ng ECC? Now, just for the audience, no, ang ECC is issued for environmentally sensitive projects or environmentally sensitive areas. In this case, pareho siya. Both environmentally sensitive project siya and environmentally sensitive area because of the protected status ng Tañon Strait. May regular permit system ba ito to check dun sa compliance nila every year?
Yes, aside from the environmental compliance certificate, marami po niyang conditions. We monitor that they comply with conditions. Aside from that, they have a wastewater discharge permit. Pertaining
sa Pollution
to,
Control
sa
Board,
pollution.
yes.
Marami po, meron pa silang permit sa air, hazardous waste. So, we have to monitor their compliance with all these issued permits. Iba pa po yung mga requirements din ng ating Protected Area Management Board
Yes,
in terms of yung operations din nila. Although, inumpisang gamitin yung pond before the protected area was legislated. So nauna po kasi yung paggamit nung pond before po. Opo.
Salamat, Engineer Chia. What will the DNR do to clean up the spill? But before you answer this, the spokes will return after the short break. And we're back. Our hanging question kanina, Engineer Chia, before we took a short break, what will the DNR do to clean up the spill and how long will this take?
Unang-una po, attorney, hindi po DNR ang mag-clean up nito. Responsibility ng URC to recover, if they can recover yung spill na wastewater. And more importantly, to stop further discharge kung may naiwan pang wastewater doon sa lagoon. Ang DNR po ay kailangang i-monitor sila as much as possible daily kung ano ang ginagawa rin ng URC, their efforts in the rehabilitation and cleanup. Of course, in coordination with our LGUs, Coast Guard, and other government agencies.
So even as you are investigating, they should be doing the cleaning up now?
Yes po, attorney.
So may tao na hukay doon sa lugar?
Yes po.
And is there a
Every day
time
po.
frame that you require URC to finish the whole cleaning?
Based on the technical conference of DNR with URC, they committed to finish the repair, the rehab of the dike by November 4. And that's tomorrow.
Yes.
As of yesterday, nasa 80% naman na po yung kanilang nagawa.
So okay, they're fixing the dike. That's one
yung
part.
water.
Yung sa cleanup naman, how long did you at least expect them to finish the entire thing?
As soon as possible, wala po tayong naibigay na time frame doon. But of course, they have to come up with measures. Kung kaya pang ma-collect. Mahirap pong i-collect kasi nag-mix na po yung wastewater, molasses wastewater sa seawater. So
Kasi you mentioned a while ago that hinahayaan yung dumaloy na lang yung wastewater. No? So if you're doing, so how do they collect kung hinahayaan na lang dumalo yung wastewater sa mag-mix na lang and flow it out? How's the cleanup being done if that's the case?
May mga cases na pwedeng gumamit nung adsorbent pads if they can do that.
So to absorb.
mahahabol
Kung
pa.
kaya pa. But it is really very difficult to collect by the nature of yung wastewater po. Kasi umalo na rin po yan sa ano. Siguro kung may makita pa silang traces ng mga colored water, kung kaya pa nilang i-pump yun or to collect, but they have to do something about it.
Do they provide you with a plan kung paano nila
Yes po,
i-clean up
that's
to?
one of their commitments to submit po yung rehab plan nila.
And yun yung isang term, rehabilitation. Dahil affected dito yung breeding grounds, what are they going to do to address yung portion na yun? They're supposed to also, di ba? Hindi
Yes.
lang yung pag-clean up,
Yes.
pero pati yung damage address
Yes,
nila.
they have to address that, and also included yung compensation din po sa affected stakeholders.
I understand na more than 4,000 families ang affected dito. Tama po ba to?
Initially, we have about 3,000,
So
almost,
about
yes, almost by
sa
that
dalawang
number.
towns yan.
Yes,
Sa Bais at
attorney,
saka
yes,
ano.
yes.
But ang compensation dyan will be monthly, I suppose, kasi hindi sila makakapaglayag.
Depende rin po kung ano yung magiging agreement po. Today, sa field, our DNR will be conducting an interagency meeting. So kasama rin po si URC. And isa po itong sa
May
pag-uusapan.
tanong ako, you're finding them 500,000 a day.
Maximum po yun.
Maximum.
I-determine pa po yan.
Curious lang, napupunta ba sa mangingisda yung pera yun? O sa DNR
saan-
mapupunta?
Pupunta yan,
Sa national.
Sa
Oh,
national.
Meron po tayong
Treasury.
fund na pinupuntahan. Opo.
May fund kayo? Para saan yan?
Yung mga sa penalties po, may,
May segregated fund kayo?
Separate government account for
Ano po ang
penalties.
tulong mabibigay natin sa ating mga mangingisda?
Meron din po yan kasi part po yan nung kanilang sa ECC condition is that they shall pay or they shall cover yung mga ganyang compensation if there is damage to the environment or sa mga stakeholders.
Pero unlike your fine, which is fixed, there's a certain amount yung tulong po,
Yun po ay
moving ano yan.
Yun po ay pag-uusapan, but they will be required po to compensate.
Sana makuha ka
Opo.
agad.
Iba po yung penalties doon sa compensation. So they are supposed to come up with an environmental guarantee fund, yung company po, and this fund is used to pay for the damages and compensation. Damages to the environment, compensation to the affected stakeholders.
So,
Malaki po.
let's go back to the ECC. No?
Yes, attorney.
Currently, all projects, government or private projects, are required to come up with an ECC. Ano po yung mga components nito? May, ano ba yun, consultations, public consultations? And they're supposed to come up with a study on how the project impacts on the environment. And when we say the environment, we talk about both the social and as well as the natural and built environments. Itong nangyari ngayon, are you going to be reviewing the requirements of an ECC? Kasi nga, di ba, yung compliance nila came after the lagoon had already been in place for several decades. Kumbaga,
We shall check, attorney, because supposedly may regular monitoring po ang ating regional office. So we are requiring the regional office to submit yung mga monitoring reports nila prior to the incident.
Engineer Cha, yung kasi medyo concerned kami sa ECC ngayon dahil it has gotten a new dimension because yesterday I think si DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon required flood control projects to secure an ECC before they embarked on it. So, is that something that you're familiar with or
Ang Environmental Management Bureau po ang nag-i-issue ng environmental compliance certificates. So for flood control projects, depends po doon sa laki ng project. So may different thresholds. So a project may be considered environmentally critical. So medyo malaki po ito. We have po our guidelines on the thresholds. Ang issuance po ng ECC ay sa central office. Then we have those that within a certain threshold, regional office naman ang nag-i-issue ng ECC. Then we have what we call the enhancement projects. So yung mga flood, yung what they call this, like mga small dikes or yung sa mga what they call this, what they call erosion control, mga ganun po, are not covered by the law. So they secure the certificate of non-coverage.
Because currently the manual, and you're mentioning about the thresholds,
Yes, sir.
hindi talaga papasok ang flood control because the thresholds that the current manual says is about pagka land area, it's about more than 25 hectares. Pag water storage, it's more than 20 million cubic meters. No? So, parang a flood control, that's why no flood control project ever secured a ECC based on the information.
Meron naman po. Meron po, attorney. We have examples of projects
The
that...
flood control.
Yes po.
So
yes
it's
po.
already there. So it's not a new regulation.
Hindi
but
po.
it seems like compulsory na ngayon regardless of thresholds.
Yan po ang kailangan na i-review ng DENR, yung threshold po, especially for the non-covered projects. So yung mga na-issuean ng CNC. Kasi
Certificate of non-coverage.
Opo. So yun yung, especially if these are environmental enhancement projects, although infra pero enhancement, na dating hindi sakop, ngayon po ay ito ang nire-review ng DENR.
Based on your manual, ang mandatory na kumuha ng ECC would be if it's in environmentally critical industry or environmentally critical areas. Di ba?
Yes,
Parang mangroves, critical area yan. Pag industries, minahan.
Yes,
Di ba? Ganon. So parang ang flood control that you would have, big ones are the dams. Yan talaga kailangan mo kumuha ng ECC eh. So, pero yung mga malilit nga, kaya it's something new to us because even DPWH was informed walang ECC to mga flood control projects eh. So, it's something that they have to be...
Hindi siya covered.
Oo.
Meron din po, hindi lang po dam. Sometimes we have yung mga seawall na medyo mahaba.
Correct.
So, this not only protect against erosion but also flood control. So, meron din po. It is not... It may be a component of an infrastructure project. Maaring iba yung pwede siyang road, pwede rin siyang flood control.
Ang
So,
problema
depende
kasi
po.
sa ECC, ma'am, parang afterthought siya eh. Sa iba, parang, uy, nagawa na yung project, dinesign at lahat, saka
After the
sasabihin,
design.
uy, kailangan mo kumuha ng ECC. So, walang concept ng environmental design
Before.
dapat sumasabay siya eh. It should be parallel with the engineering design as well as the environmental design. So you can see the impact to the environment while they are designing the whole project. ECC normally is afterthought talaga siya eh.
Actually, post-design.
Yes, post-design si ECC eh.
Dapat po, pag nag-a-apply ng ECC, meron na po silang sinasubmit na design. So part po yan ng project description na sinasubmit ng proponent or in the case you mentioned earlier, an environmental impact assessment. So especially for big infrastructure projects, nandun po yung design. So siguro may mga cases na afterthought, but basically it should be before even the project is started.
Sana hindi ho tumagal kasi another layer po yan eh. It's another bureaucratic layer. Sana ho maging, you can coordinate with the PWH. Parang isang one desk lang. Parang sinasabing design at saka environmental study, nandiyan na, nakasabay na.
We have been working with the DPWH kasi alam po nila yung requirement na ito. So they know that they have to submit the design of their project. There have been even cases like itong mga road projects dito sa NCR that they have to do a redesign kung nakita natin na hindi maganda yung kalalagyan.
That's the point.
Yes po.
You have to do a redesign. So
Yes
that means
po.
it's an afterthought. So that's,
Even before the ECC is issued po.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Engineer Chan. So how can stricter environmental governance actually translate into real disaster preparedness on the ground? So ano po ang ano natin dyan, Engineer Chan?
Well, kami po sa DENR and of course government as a whole, we have to ensure that itong mga batas po natin are strictly enforced. Marami po tayong magagandang environmental laws, not only for the protection of the environment. We have air, water, and of course our land, we have to make sure that the requirements of the law are complied with. And we have to be vigilant din po. And we request, of course, our stakeholders, our communities, and to tulungan din po kami. And of course, our collaboration with other government agencies and our local government units.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Assistant Director Maria Naz-Hipe.
The spokes will still return after this short break. So,
Well, what do you think?
it's very, very interesting because we tend to view environmental as not a very important thing, notwithstanding the fact that we're in the midst of climate change and all that. So, and every time it only comes to the fore whenever there's a environmental disaster that happens. It's good that you're very, very familiar with the environmental laws, but it's really something that we should inculcate in our.
So it's an information gap.
It's an information gap. Also, I'm afraid of the bureaucratic process. Because you do an ECC, it takes a while for a company to secure an ECC.
There was a time when parang tinatawanan pa kami. Pag hinanapan namin, nasa ng ECC, and then na-issue naman daw yung ECC, and we question the gaps in the ECC. Talaga nakakarinig ako na, ma'am, ay andyan na yan eh. Tapos they would actually try to discourage us from filing cases. Sasabihin nila kasi, ma'am, ang laki-laki ng project, papatigil nyo. May mga ganon
Exactly,
but the nice thing is when we started the practice, the environmental protection practice in law was starting to grow. A lot of people wanted to get into it. So, magagaling. Of course, the pioneers in that, Attorney Ipat Luna, for example.
Si Oposa, I remember, di ba si Oposa?
Attorney Oposa, of course. Oposa
Yeah.
versus Factoran. And I contributed to his book on the built environment. Sa kanya kasi, he compiled the laws so that it would be easier to understand the practice of envi law. But it's still not enough. Poverty is one of the main factors. So poverty equals mismanagement. Garbage is another. The mismanagement of our garbage, the standards for pollution. For example, we do have warnings about when pollution levels are getting bad, but actually addressing them. Malaking contribution yung Pollution Board, and one of the pioneers in that, Attorney Tony Lavinia, was one of the first heads of the Pollution Control Board. But many people claim that it's still a spotty record and it still needs to be strengthened and tightened up.
So,
Poverty, again.
we're now asking flood control proponents to secure an ECC. Do you think it will curb corruption?
Of course not, but
That's a very fast no.
no, but it's because it's the people. We have really good laws. In case you haven't noticed, kudos to our legislators, many of them, but it's actually the staff. But anyway, the point is that there are so many, no matter how nice the laws look, or even when you read them, and how high, how lofty the ambitions, somebody finds a way around it. Or even if there's no way around it, somebody finds a corrupt way to get around it. It's illegal, certainly, but as long as people keep seeing that there are officials who get away with it, it's not going to go away soon.
It's another layer of bureaucracy because
Again,
although Engineer Cha said there are some flood control projects that require ECC. The fact is, many of them do not have ECC.
It's punishing the proponent.
Yes, and the flood control is a very important solution to helping the community. So I don't know.
So
I agree with you on that point. I'm not very confident that it will curb corruption.
So this bears closer monitoring, especially with considering the nature of the Tañon Strait. Right. So this wraps up today's episode of The Spokes. For now, don't settle for just one side of the story.
Because every issue has two perspectives.
And
the truth may be somewhere in between.
I'm Attorney Trixie Cruz-Angeles.
And I'm Attorney Edwin Lacierda, and this is
The Spokes.